Hello and welcome to this video. I have recently been going over what crafting is like in PvE2, giving myself a little bit of a refresher so my league start goes a bit smoother than it usually does, probably. And that kind of brought me to the idea of making this video. A lot of crafting videos that I see online are very endgame focused. So this video is more for, to begin with, SSF, because you don't have access to as much currency and tools as people do on trade, and beginner friendly, as in we're not covering anything too advanced. This is early crafting, so nothing crazy. In this video, we will be covering what items will be targeted and how. That's just setting the boundaries of what this video will cover, making sure everyone's on the same page and knows what to expect. We will cover some basic need-to-knows, so anyone who is like an actual beginner, hopefully I will get you up to speed on everything I'll be using in this video, to the best of my ability. We'll be providing some tips on before you actually start crafting, to make your overall experience a bit smoother and more streamlined. And then in the end of the video, I will have a bunch of crafting examples. I will do a few very in-depth ones, and then just a bunch of quickfire. So first off, what items will we target and how? A lot of people have different definitions for this, so just for this video, when I'm talking about a SSF-Viable and beginner-friendly crafting, we will be targeting early to mid-game items. For me, this means items with 4 good mods, while you're progressing the mid to end tier of maps. Some examples of this would be a chest with good life and 3 decent resistance mods, or if you're playing an energy shield character, a chest with like 2 good energy shield mods and 2 resistance mods. So generally like 4 good mods, a good item. Nothing endgame, nothing too insane, just solid items that will carry you through that early stage of mapping. So what do I mean when I say that it is SSF viable and beginner friendly, I suppose? We will not be using any rare omens, we will not be using recombinators, we will not be using perfect essences, and we will, for the most part, initially, not be using perfect currency. Kind of simulating what you might expect to have if you're not trading in those early to mid stages of the campaign, well, not campaign, the mapping progression, I should say. So first off, some basic need-to-knows before we start. Since I don't know the knowledge level of people that might be watching this video, I will go very basic and then we'll slightly go into the semi-advanced stuff, even though nothing I'll be saying in this video is super advanced. Normal versus magic versus rare. An example in this picture below. A normal item is a white item, nothing has been done to it. A magic item is an item that can have up to 2 modifiers, 2 affixes, one of which is a prefix, and the other of which is a suffix. And then a rare item can go all the way up to 6 modifiers, 6 affixes, 3 of which are prefixes, 3 of which are suffixes. I will go into prefixes and suffixes a little bit more in a bit and during the video in general. What are essences? I will be using essences a lot during this. An essence is a type of currency, I suppose, that says it upgrades a magic item to a rare item, adding a guaranteed modifier, and each type of essence will have a different modifier that they guarantee. The example I have here, an essence of thawing, is an essence that will take a magic item, one with 1 or 2 affixes, blue, and it will upgrade it to yellow, and it will guarantee to add a cold resistance of between 21 to 25. A lesser essence of thawing also exists. It will just guarantee a weaker cold resistance, and a greater essence of thawing will guarantee a higher cold resistance. You have a bunch of essences that add a bunch of different modifiers. Not too important. It's all pretty self-explanatory. Now, item level versus required item level. A confusing topic to many people. One that I will attempt to explain using Path of Exile, another tool we'll be using a lot of in this video. So I'm going to show you that right away. So welcome to Path of Exile. First thing you want to do is make sure you're on Path of Exile 2. You can see if you click on here, you're on the PoE 1 version. for this video, we really want to be on the PoE2 version. Check the logo here and just make sure you're on the correct one. You can get out to this website by just typing Path of Exile in Google. First thing we will be looking at is the calculator. You can see here, you can choose a base group. This is just whatever item you're interested in checking, you click on it. So in this case, we're going with body armor, and you can see the requirements. The requirement matters. A strength body armor will not be able to roll things like energy shield, whereas a intelligence armor will not be able to roll things like armor. It really defines what type of modifiers they can roll. You can see here we have prefixes and suffixes. So a rare item can have up to 6 modifiers, 3 of which are prefixes, 3 of which are suffixes. So this is where you can kind of have a look at what do you want on an item. Very useful information here is if we go, for example, to this plus to maximum energy shield, it will have eye level. This shows at which item level of an item certain modifier tiers can start rolling. So a level 65 chest will go up to tier 3, whereas a level 79 chest or higher can roll all the way up to the highest tier of modifier. Not to be confused with required level. If we go to the emulator here, we click on create item, keeping the same showcase, we will use body armor and intelligence. You see here that every body armor that has an intelligence requirement in the game is listed here. It shows the required level, which means that monsters of that level will start dropping them, but not necessarily stop. So if we go to these two examples, the Havoc Raiment and the Vile Robe, these have the highest base energy shield of any armor. They start dropping from level 65 monsters, but if you remember, the item level requirement for the energy shield modifier earlier was 79. So you would want a 79 or higher monster to drop this item, which means the item level would be higher. And the required level at that point doesn't really matter. You just want the item level to be high enough to roll the modifiers that we see over here. So item level 75 for this mod, item level 79 for this mod. This is for, making sure that you're using the correct bases to craft with for the stage you're at. So before we actually look at some practical examples, I wanted to go over a few tips to set yourself up for success before actually crafting. One way to do this is to make sure you're focusing the right mechanic. Very important for crafting are essences and abyss. I don't know yet how abyss is going to be because we have to spec into it on the tree, but you really will be wanting to do that and doing that as fast as possible. Essences as well, you can spec into it, get a bigger chance of getting essences in your map, and that will go a long way to actually having stuff to craft with. Second up is a proper item filter. This video will not cover how you make an item filter. I would assume there are tons of videos on that. But the important thing is that you only show items that you care about, especially if you're on SSF. This means that if you're playing a caster that only wants energy shield, you make sure that you don't show armor bases, you don't show evasion bases. That's all just clutter and will make you miss the items that you actually care about. You probably want to make sure that you focus normal and magic items, because rare items typically, unless you're just RNGing them, aren't really worth crafting on. Finally would be dump stash tabs. This means that you have a stash tab, and whenever you finish a map, I think I have a little, yeah, there we go. You clear a map, you pick up the loot, which is filtered by your item filter. And at the end of your map, when you leave your map, you just go to your stash, you dump all the items that you picked up, and you go to the next map. You do this like 4, 5, 6 times, however much. And then let's say we're crafting boots. When you have like 10 boots, you start crafting and hopefully you hit, and otherwise you rinse and repeat. Finally, let's look at some examples using Path of Exile. So welcome back to Path of Exile. For the in-depth examples, I want to show a live piece and a a strength body armor and a intelligence based body armor. Intelligence specifically because I think those are a bit more specific in what you want to get before you continue crafting. But let's say a strength body armor. What do you want on this? Assuming item level 75 is kind of where we're at, you would want like one of these 3 life modifiers, probably, maybe tier 5. But typically before you would continue crafting, you would want like on your on your item high life, you would want resistance. Let's say like this range, so why not? Let's say that this is an item that you're aiming for, like life with 3 resistances, or maybe you would want life and armor and 2 resistances. We are aiming for 4 good modifiers. So you kind of come here, you see, okay, what am I aiming for? Okay, something like this. You go to your emulator. If you have an item that you want to simulate with or practice around with before you actually use currency in-game, you can click import. It'll explain to you how to do that over here. For this, we will be using create new item, strength base. We will take a level 65 base, a glorious plate, why not? And 75 on item level. Now up here, we have a bunch of currencies that we can use on the item. It will highlight or disable the ones that you can or cannot use. You will have a list of pre and suffixes here that you can manually add modifiers on if you're like, okay, let's say I have a tier 3 life with a tier 2 resistance. How do I go from here? You can do that. For this example, we're assuming that you have like your stash tab with a bunch of white items that you want to craft with. Maybe some magic ones to gamble, skipping this first step. But step 1 is using greater orbs of transmutation on all of those pieces. Perfect, you know, that's more for endgame crafting, because at this stage of the game that we're talking about, you will not have that many perfects. Hopefully you will have enough graders. Worst case scenario, you use normal orbs of transmutation, but the odds of getting something good in this stage are so low. Because there is RNG involved, you really want to use greater. They will guarantee a minimum tier of modifier. So you take all of your glorious plates and you start clicking transmutations on them. You see in this one's bad, don't bother, delete it, vendor it, whatever. This one's bad, delete it, vendor it, bad, vendor it, bad, vendor it. This one might be okay, but probably vendor it. What we're really looking for is a good resistance. So this we're happy with. That took a few attempts, more than I would normally like, but sometimes your RNG is just going to be bad. So we have like these 10 items. We have hopefully 1 good modifier on it. Then you take your augmentation orb and you hit it. Hopefully you get something that you want. If not, you have to redo this process a lot. Tier 9 life is kind of too low. Tier 4 armor might be good. In this case, let's say that you're like, okay, armor is good. I want armor. You would probably use an essence of the body next. So next step, when you have 2 good modifiers, is using an essence to make it from 2 to 3 modifiers and a rare item. If you don't have life on a strength body armor, you would probably just guarantee the life. You can gamble, and I'll go over that as well. Let's say you guarantee this life. It is okay. Depending on what your chest you're using, you're probably already pretty happy with this. But you would then use a preserved rib, because you've been farming Abyss, as I told you to. And hopefully that's easy enough to do, because that's a bit of a question mark. And you hit it, we hit a suffix, and you just take whatever you want. This is a very good one that we hit here. You have so much options. Let's say that we really want Chaos Rest, because that's hard to come by. We take this. Often you're only going to have one choice that you're really interested in. Sometimes you might get no choices that you're interested in. That's RNG. But you can see revealing a suffix is pretty consistently, at the very least, this is kind of unlucky, but it's at the very least okay. Let's say that you don't choose to go for an essence of the body, but we take another cold resistance. Then we could do this, and hopefully you hit a prefix, and then you're hoping for the RNG of hitting big life. So this is better than all of the examples that I showed before. The only thing is that hitting life is RNG. Sometimes you're going to hit 30 life. Sometimes you might hit 10 life, or you might hit no life. That's the RNG that you're going with here. So kind of depends. If you have nothing too great on your body right now, I would hit an essence of this and then desecrate it and hopefully get a suffix. but you might get a prefix as well, and then you just hope for something like Spirit, for example, which is very nice, or just something usable like Big Armor. And that's how we get to a point where we have an armor piece with, 4 good modifiers. At this point, you just take any Exalted Orbs and you hit them, and you hope that you get something good, but don't get your hopes up, because usually my RNG when I do this, horrible, as you can see here. If you're lucky, you hit like a 3rd resistance, like we did there, and like a good prefix. But this is how you get 4 good suffixes, or affixes rather, on a strength body armor. If we're going back to this stage, all the way back, my preferred way of doing this is getting like a high magic life roll. So let's say we have like this as our starting base. We take essences, we put a resistance on there, not the same one that we already have. We hit it with a desecration. In this case, we hit prefix, which is not my favorite. I would always rather hit a suffix in this stage of the game. And as you can see here, this chest, we had 2 Exalted Orbs. That's not bad. I'm very happy with this. I'm very happy with this already. Exalted Orbs on prefixes, usually a bit more consistent and being at the very least okay, in my opinion. But for suffixes, or affixes, sorry, I keep saying that wrong, that we are very happy with. That is a strength showcase. All right, for the intelligence base, I'm going to start all the way over because I'm assuming some people will kind of just skip along the video. For an energy shield base, we can check in the calculator here what we want. And for energy shield bases, this goes for body armor, chests, headpieces, armors. I'm saying the same thing like 4 times, but body, helmet, chest, all of those. You really want 2 things that are very important. You want increased energy shield of a decent amount, and you want flat energy shield of a decent amount. We are working with like item level 75, assuming. So anything here we are kind of happy with, and anything here we are kind of happy with. Then you just add on 2 resistances. And this is probably an item that during the early parts of the campaign, you are very happy with. So we go to the emulator, we take an intelligence base. You can click here the type of bases that you want. We take a 65 base, which for energy shield is the highest energy shield base, even for the higher. But the higher ones have like other stuff, so it depends what you want. So for this example, we will take a vial rope of item level 75. Now, what do we do here? We take an orb of transmutation. Up here, we have all of these different currencies that we can use. It will highlight the ones that you can use, disable the ones that you cannot use on the item. It also shows like prefix and suffixes that you can put on here manually if you don't want to use any RNG for certain steps of crafting. But assuming that you have like a stash step full of like 10 or 15 of these white chests, you are just going to be very happy when you see this on your first transmute probably. But the thing with energy shield is that you want to keep going until you have a good resistance. Once you have 1 good mod, you hit an augment. And for energy shield, the augmentation that you want to hit is flat energy shield. This one is tier 4. Let's say that we got pretty lucky and we got a... Well, actually, you can see here, getting a tier 3 is very low. We hit a tier 4 there. Let's just put that back on. This is a magic item that you kind of want to start with at this level and this point of the early to mid game. Why flat energy shield and not increased energy shield? Because with essences, we can guarantee increased energy shield, but we cannot guarantee flat energy shield. I will show an example of getting flat energy shield or doing it the other way around. But for this example, like best, easiest case scenario, we take an essence of enhancement, we click it, and we have 3 good modifiers. Step 4 in this process is clicking a preserved rib, which you get from farming Abyss. Hopefully you get enough of them. That's a bit RNG with how it's not a core mechanic anymore, but I think it'll be okay. You click it, you get a suffix, which is nice, and then you just hope you can click something good. This I'm not happy with in the early game. Ideally, when you hit a suffix, you want to get like resistances. In this stage of a game, capping resistances is such a pain in the ass. You really want resistances. If you don't hit resistance, take something else that's decent for you. Could be anything, but you see, this is RNG. It might also be that you hit a prefix with this. In that case, you just preferably probably take energy shield. Sometimes you will see like a high life modifier here if you're still like relying on life. That's also very nice to take. But this way we kind of want to get a suffix again, because that's like the best case scenario. And then you still have to get lucky. You see that energy shield bases are a bit more tricky to craft. I feel like I'm getting very unlucky with resistances here though. But at some point, relatively reliably, if your RNG isn't as horrible as mine was, you get to a 500 energy shield base. You can even put some Artificer's Orb on here and take some greater iron runes, and boom, suddenly you have a 600 energy shield base. In the early to mid game, that is very strong. It'll be a while before you can actually craft consistently something better than this. You can also like double exalt and hope that you get something good. In this case, we got a very good life. Sometimes you get lucky with exalted orbs, sometimes you won't. That's pure RNG. And not something we are guaranteeing with this crafting method. So that's pure RNG. But getting like 4 mods is pretty consistent. If we then go all the way back to where earlier we hit tier 1 energy shield on this, very cool if you hit this. In this case, you don't really have a good prefix that you can use an essence for. You would just hit an essence of resistance. And at this point, you are hoping that your preserved rib, first of all, hits a prefix. In this case, it didn't. You could try to like fill up your suffixes first by like hitting exalted orbs, and then you can, okay, your desecration will always hit a prefix. If you have some omens, like you hit an omen that, you know, you can do this and you're guarantee a suffix. I'm kind of going over this fast because I don't want to cover that in this video. We're going with the RNG route of, okay, hit a prefix on your thingy. When you then reveal it, you could hit flat energy shield here. We didn't in this example. We didn't in this example. In this example, we actually hit a very good one. So this chest is actually a lot better than what I showed before, but it is also a lot more RNG. Like, sometimes you will hit very low flat energy shield, sometimes you will hit very big energy shield, and then you can do this again, hit the greater iron runes. Suddenly we have an almost 800 energy shield. This is insane. Double exalted, hit nothing good. Well, that wasn't too bad actually. But you can do this. I would definitely, if you have currency to spare, I would try this. If you're going for energy shield bases, it is just a lot less consistent to do. But I guess bigger gamble, bigger potential win for sure. You can do the same with undo. If you get like a really high flat energy shield, where you use a resistance essence and then you hope that your desecration hits a prefix. This is what I mean. It took me like 6 attempts to hit a prefix at this point. Very hard. And then you still have to hit increased energy shield of a high enough capacity to be good. On SSF, and in general, if you're playing early on, that's going to be a lot of currency to try to reproduce this. So that's why I'm like, if you have some currency to spare, just do it. Like, this is a very good chest, but if you take all the undoing that I did, gonna take you a while. So yeah, that was 2 very in-depth examples. Let's go into some more quickfire. Let's craft some strength boots. So strength boots, we take, I'm going to do this for all the examples, requires a level 65, item level 75. We hit transmutes until we get 1 good suffix or prefix, and we hit augments until we get 1 good suffix or prefix. Now the thing with boots, in this stage, you will always keep doing this with transmutes and augments, or picking up magic items off the ground, until you get, and we're being very unlucky, movement speed. You see, with a greater augment, we will always get at least tier 2 movement speed, I'm pretty sure. It has a 12% chance of hitting, so if you have a good suffix, throw a greater augment on. If you get movement speed, good, we're good to go. Otherwise, if you get good movement speed, you keep augmenting until you get a resistance. So you get to 2 magic slots. Then we use an essence, normal essence, usually in this stage of the game. Greater essence if you're feeling fancy and you really want to guarantee something good. Depends on what you're going for. On boots, I would do either a resistance essence or a body essence. Body essence, pretty good. Then we hit a desecration, preserved one, not ancient, because we are not rich, we are SSF. In this case, we got a prefix, hit armor, boom, done. Let's say we hit a suffix, which we are happier with in this case. Strength, not too happy. We really want the resistance. That's not bad at all. You see, sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. Lightning resistance, boom, 4 mods we're very happy with. This would be good, this would be good. If you have the ability to, you would click the Abyssal Echo's Omen to guarantee that you get get a much higher chance of getting something good with your unveil. But yeah, that's how we would craft a decent pair of boots every time. If you don't have a life essence, you would instead do like resistance, and then the fun thing is that you can RNG getting a suffix, a prefix, which could be life. The sad thing here is we had 17 life, but another time we might hit 55 life, or if you do this enough times, 89 or even higher. We're being unlucky now, but you can get pretty high life like this. But you can see that the RNG of getting high life is a lot harder, because you first have to hit a prefix and then a high life suffix. Hit a double exalt on it. Hope that you get something good. But these boots already I'm pretty happy with. Intelligence boots. Same thing as with strength boots. As always, 65 required, 75 item level. You would keep greater transmuting and augmenting until you get, unfortunately for energy shields, also movement speed. I'm not going to keep doing this, but you would eventually hit 30% movement speed. Hopefully not too hard. Then for energy shield, I would not go with a resistance unless you really don't have an enhancement, but I would preferably hit an enhancement on this, get increased energy shield, hit our desecration on it, we hit a prefix, which we are happy with, and preferably we get flat energy shield. Boom, we have pretty decent energy shields. We double hit an exalt on this because, you know, we might do something like this and get these crazy boots for this stage of the game. But by now you can tell it's not always guaranteed. Sometimes you're going to hit a suffix with this one, and hopefully you can get a resistance on that or anything that you are interested in. But that's pretty RNG. All of this crafting so far, if you've been following along, we can't guarantee anything at this stage, but we can get as close as possible. Let's craft a belt. Now for belts, if you go to the calculator, we are on a belt. That's from earlier. The only real prefix that we care about for most basic builds is life. So you go to your emulator. That's an amulet. You click a belt. Item level 75. You put these in your stash tab and you keep going until that was easy. You got a high resistance and a high life modifier. You then take your essence. You put something that you care about, usually resistance for a belt. You take your preserved collarbone. You reveal, and boom, this is a very good belt. We hit like everything first try. Sometimes you're going to hit your collarbone and you're going to hit a prefix. Then you're a bit sad because that's just not as good usually. But you can get something that's okay, at least. Preferably, you're always going to hit a suffix. You can try filling up your prefixes, but preferably you hit a suffix, you get a belt with 3 resistance modifiers. Very happy. Throw some exalts on there, why not? They won't do anything too great for you at that point. Next up, let's look at some jewelry. Let's craft a decent ring. Now, all of these bases are pretty fine, but Chaos Res is very hard to cap, so let's go with an amethyst ring of item level 75. We hit greater transmutes until we get 1 good modifier, usually a resistance or a life modifier. Then we hit greater augments until we get 1 good modifier, usually life for this example. This might take a while. I feel like I got pretty lucky. Yeah, that's a 5% chance to hit tier 1 life with a greater augment. But you can look at the pool, see if there's anything else that you care about. If you're a caster, you might actually want to go for something like cast speed as your first suffix. This is where you kind of look and see what you actually want for your magic item. Then with essences, you guarantee your second resistance, and then you hit a preserved collarbone. You reveal, in this case, a suffix, +5 all res. Not the highest, but okay. +8 all res. Pretty happy with that. Exposure effect, we didn't hit resistance, but that might be good for your build. Yeah, you're really cast speed. If you're a caster, very happy with that. Some pieces like this, you see jewelry is a lot harder to hit a good reveal on. So really worth to try using an Abyssal Echo's Omen. But yeah, sometimes you hit a prefix and then you can just kind of see what might be good for you. Sometimes nothing if you're an attack build, sometimes something decent, or this if you're a spell build. Going over this quickly at this point, but you know, you get the idea. Pretty easy to get 4 good modifiers on an item. Let's craft a pair of gloves. For strength-based gloves, we would do something like requires level 65, item level 75. We would augment or transmute augment until we get 2 good modifiers. Usually you would try to have your prefix be life, but if you get high armor, you can go with the essence of the body, throw a preserved rib on there, you know, hopefully get resistance. Something like this. Takes a few attempts sometimes. But preferably you really just augment until you get high life. I'm not hitting, so let's simulate it. Let's say this is your magic item, which can definitely happen. You throw an essence on there, you take your desecration, we hit a prefix, probably armor or damage if you're interested in that more. If you hit a suffix, you can try to aim for rarity or resistance, usually resistance in this stage of the game. And that way you get a decent armor. Hit some exiles to try and be lucky. Like this would be great. But yeah, that's how you craft gloves. For intelligence gloves, you would go with same as all intelligence based gear. 65, 75 here again. You would have to, well, that's very lucky. You want flat energy shield and then augment a high resistance. That is best case scenario. First item you use, boom, you don't have to get 15. That's just the first item. Usually this will take longer. You take an essence, you guarantee enhancement. You can gamble, which I will show as well. But if you have bad gloves, you first guarantee this, and then next time you go for the gamble, or you use like perfect essences and stuff like that. But at this point, you take a desecration, preserved rib, you hit a suffix, and hopefully you get something better than what we have here, unless that's good for your build, obviously. But preferably, we really want to hit a resistance here. Sometimes this takes a while. Gloves seem to be one of those where it's a bit harder to hit. Really depends on the item. Sometimes like all you can get are resistances. Like this we're very happy with. You know, rarity is not bad. You really just take something that's decent and you keep repeating this process until you get like 4 decent mods. And if you have enough exalted orbs, you know, just slam them at this stage. If you hit a prefix on energy shield, kind of same thing. Oh, we had a prefix there. I clicked past it. Just take whatever is good. Energy shield. If you hit it, life, if that's decent for you. If life isn't decent, take the attack one. Yeah. That would be energy shields. Crafting weapons is a bit more tricky, so I'll quickly go over that, but not too in depth. Because at this stage of the game, when you're relying on RNG, it is a lot harder. Weapons are one of those where you really want a prefix that is increased physical damage, which might take you a long time to hit. And then eventually a suffix. This one might be okay to try to go for. And then eventually a suffix that is like either attack speed or increased gem levels. But you can see I'm hitting so many transmutes on this, and I'm not really hitting what I'm looking for. Eventually what you really want as a starting point on a magic item would be, let's not assume, let's go with like tier 3 And then like I would usually like attack speed, something like this. Then you hit an Essence of Abrasion, which will guarantee flat physical damage. There's no essence that puts increased physical damage on, which is why you really want that as your starting base. But you would hit this and then get a Preserved Jawbone. In this case, we hit a Prefix. Prefixes on weapons, luckily, once you have these two, so many of them are good. If you have like elemental damage conversion, you can take that. Otherwise, like Summon Totems might be good. Like this hybrid physical, so good. We already have a 700 PDPSX. If you hit a suffix, you would probably be looking for Break Armor or Fissure or Crit Chance, stuff like that. Maybe you don't take an attack speed suffix as what you're really hoping for. Maybe you hit a plus gem suffix, something like this. That's a low one. Let's go with at least +4, you know? In that case, you hit the flat physical, and you can try to use this suffix from your Jawbone, which we are not hitting, which is part of the reason why I like guaranteeing attack speed. But you take this until eventually you get attack speed on this. But that's pretty RNG to do, as you can see. Usually you would... The easier way to craft a decent physical weapon is just having attack speed from the magic item. Essence, Abrasion. Honestly, if you are crafting weapons, greater essences are great. If you're on trade, just buy them. If you're SSF, good luck farming them. But this makes such a huge difference for the damage that your weapon will do. But we are using normal essences for this video. So you do something like this. Just take whatever is good. And that's how you would kind of craft a weapon. Hit your double exalt, hopefully get something good. Weapons are a lot harder to do. So caster weapons. Let's assume most casters use a one-handed weapon, as this same crafting goes for a staff as well. Let's take Torture Wand with Chaos Gems for an example, item level 75. The problem with caster weapons in particular is that, you know, cast speed, great, but you don't want cast speed. For your starting point, your magic item base, you really, really, really want +2 level of all skill gems. So for Chaos, this would be this. For Fire, whatever. And then you would hit an augment, but it is so hard to hit a good augment. Hybrid is probably your best bet, because the only essence that at this point you probably are going to use is either an Essence of Sorcery, or if cast speed is good for your build, Essence of Alacrity. Best scenario is probably that you hit an augment on spell damage, or chaos damage in this case. Like this, you're very happy with. The odds of hitting this magic base are insanely low. But then you take an essence. Honestly, if this is your base, you save up until you have a greater essence. Because you're either going to hit a greater essence of sorcery and get this, or if cast speed is good for you, you're going to do this. And at that point, you have a pretty okay weapon. You take your Jawbone, you hit it. You're probably going to take something good here, like crit or hinder. There's a lot of options here that are good for, depending on your build. It might be very bad for your build. I think prefixes on caster weapons are probably a bit better. Because, like, if you get this... If I ever get this weapon on SSF in the early stages where you could hit this, I am so happy. You double exalt, boom, this is a better weapon than I've seen on SSF personally. There are a lot of guaranteed ways to craft caster weapons using perfect essences and all that, but almost all of them start with having to have this modifier on a weapon, which is just very hard. It's a very low chance. But if you're going to attempt this, pick up every one that you can. Just keep going until you get it. Eventually, you will get something usable. And the goal eventually is to get better items than you already have. You know, you don't have to start with this. You can settle for +3 or +2 if you don't have better. But that is the idea. So I was editing the video, I realized I forgot to show a helmet. Specifically, I would really like to show a intelligence helmet. So let's go with a 65 base, level 75 item level. Do the same thing, we keep hitting greater transmutes until we hit very good flat energy shield. In this case, really easily got tier 1 flat energy shield. Tier 2 lightning rest instantly. Love that. That's best case scenario, because then we can guarantee with Essence of Enhancement that we get percentage energy shield. Optionally, you get a suffix instead and gamble with Desecration, or preferably, probably you would go with a greater Essence of Enhancement. Get something like this, already 300% energy shield. Hit it with a Preserved Rib. In this case, we got a prefix, so we do one of these, whichever is best for your build. In this case, this is the RNG part. If you hit a suffix, you get decent odds of something good, preferably like resistance. Yeah, it just goes to show you can real easily craft a 300% energy shield helmet. This was a bit lucky with the prefixes, but still very strong. Same of all the other items applies. Very consistent. You throw up some Exalted Orbs to gamble, and yeah, good luck with that. Alright, at this point, I have been rambling for quite some time. I don't know how long the video will be at this point, but I have hopefully shown you how to craft with decent reliability a 4 mod item. There is always some RNG involved at this stage of the game. Later on with like Giga endgame crafting, you can guarantee a lot of things, but honestly on SSF, that is a lot of hours of playing. And if you're a beginner friendly, or if you're a beginner, I should say, not beginner friendly, if you're a beginner, that is a step too far. This video, I've hopefully shown you how to easily get decent items that will get you a long way in this game. The items that I've shown on a decent build will probably clear all of the endgame content. It doesn't all have to be perfect items when all of your items are good or above average. But yeah, that's enough of me rambling. I've been recording for a while. I hope this video isn't too long. I hope that all of the examples were decent, or I will have to re-record them. But yeah, thank you for watching. If you have any questions on this, please let me know. I will hopefully answer them. And yeah, thank you for watching, and hope you have a good league start. Bye-bye.